So, good evening, Sean, and thank you very, very much for asking if you wanted to do this. And I'm sure this is going to be a fabulous evening. Can you first of all tell me what it is you would like everybody, what you would like to actually, how you'd like to highlight this before we go into any kind of a discussion?
First of all, thank you everyone, every single one of you for coming tonight. I really appreciate your time and you being here today. Basically, a few weeks ago, we all know a man lost his life on the streets. To say I was angry is an understatement. And I decided to reach out to you, John, so we could use your platform to have a general discussion between all of us, to get an understanding of how far we've come as not just a community, but as human beings.
Yes.
The way I was feeling was really bizarre because it's something that I see all the time and it's something that's happening frequently and nothing is being done. So my aim was to reach out to you for us to use your platform to get the message out to as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
That this has to stop. This has to stop within the industry of arts that we are in and outside of it.
Yes.
To say that I'm the only one that feels this way, as you know, I would be lying. And a lot of people feel this way and nothing is being done about this situation. So that's why I reached out to you so we can have this discussion so everybody can have their say and come up with a brainstorming situation for us to all come up with ideas to see how we can counteract this situation in a whole.
Yes. Well, I think that the way I see this personally is it's a form of bullying in so many ways, because we all be allowed to be together, working together as professional people, and we're in a profession whereby hopefully everybody is there to do a job and everybody's there to enjoy what they're doing. And I think that whatever background you come from, whether you're whatever colour your skin is, to me is something that shouldn't even enter people. It shouldn't enter anybody. Excuse me, I'm just going to ask. So it's quite a bit of noise going on in the background. If you could mute, I can hear background feedback. I'm sorry to break in on this. Thank you, whoever that was. And I just see that, you know, it must be horrible for people, anybody who lives in any kind of fear within a working environment where they're unable, or at least they're frightened to actually speak out and say how they are feeling. Now, this should not be the case. So, you know, to me, it's a situation that, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because there's always going to be a small percentage, and hopefully we can say this is a very, very small percentage of individuals who are going to continue to do this and to say little things. And yes, we all make mistakes. We all say little things that are slightly un-PC or something that might offend somebody. And I'm sure, I'm not defending this situation, but what I'm saying is what people doing that is, there are some people that will say something and genuinely make a mistake by saying it and realize that they've said the wrong thing. And, you know, that can be cleared up. But I always say this, and I'm going to use this as an example. In a rehearsal room, a friend of mine went through something very similar to this. And he was being laughed at. He wasn't a BAME actor, but nevertheless, it was a situation whereby he came to me, he was starting a national tour, he came to me and he said, there were two people in the rehearsal room laughing, and he said he wondered whether it was his paranoia. He did, you know, and I said, well, you need to make sure that, you know, find this out, irrespective of whether you feel paranoid or not. It shouldn't be happening. It turned out to be two of them that were being very petulant, and just they actually did a drawing of him, of a picture, like a character picture of him, and there were like two children at the back of the classroom laughing. This was reported. The company manager did nothing about it because he had some kind of a thing about this other actor, but that's another story. And it ended up them having to get a member of somebody from Equity that went in. It still carried on, and then he snapped with this person or persons and told them, and they realized that they'd been doing the wrong. They admitted to it, and he, being the nature that he was, he let it go. The point I'm trying to make here is that you know, anybody that feels they are being intimidated for their color, for, you know, anything along these lines, needs to say something. I know it might be quite difficult. Maybe they're thinking about their job, thinking about whether I'm going to get told off about it. I don't think that that should be the case. You need to speak up. If you can't speak to one person, go to somebody else. And I just think that that is vital, because, you know, it's got to be nipped in the bud, because at the end of the day, it's like having, I don't know, like a large spot on your arm or something. If you don't look into it, it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse.
Right, yeah.
And it, you know, it will not change. And it's a similar situation, because these people that decide to think they can bully people, make racist comments for whatever reason. There's an old saying, I don't know if you've heard it, many a true word spoken in jest. I've been on the receiving end of the odd little thing. And I think possibly because I'm a bit of an outspoken northerner originally, I do kind of don't let it fester, and I will take that person to one side and say something. So what I'm going to do now, I've waffled on, I'm going to hand over to you, Sean, and if you want me to help in any shape or form, I will do, but I'm going to leave it. It's your evening. We have until 9:30, so I'm going to let you take the reins on this one, okay?
Thank you.
All right, you're very welcome. Over to Sean.
There's a saying that I've read from a book from Che Guevara, and the saying goes as, if you feel any sign of injustice in any way, shape or form, then you are a comrade of mine. And that saying has stayed with me for many years. Us as human beings are not enemies in any shape or form. It's not a black or a white thing. It's a thing where it's to do with humanity, with us all. Whatever happens, happens to us all. But not everybody can see that. Now, this situation that's happened that sparked me to reach out to you, for us to all come together to have this discussion, wasn't just a boiling point. This has been happening for many a year, as we all know. The elephant in the room that's never addressed is seen, but nobody ever speaks about it. So that's why I felt that I had to come out and reach out to you so we can have this discussion. Because it's something that is known by everybody, but nobody wants to speak about it. It's better that it's swept underneath the carpet and left there than for us to sit down and have an open discussion and speak to each other like human beings and look each other in the eye and talk about it. So this is one of the main reasons why I reached out to you, John, so we can all have this discussion and we can all give our insight and input in this matter.
And if anybody has a story that they want to or wish to share with all of us, please do. If you don't, if you want to change it to the third person or something like that, or if it's about somebody else, I mean, I've said that now, that you might want to talk about it yourself. But if you want to share an experience, this has to be a situation whereby we're all together on here, and what stays on the meeting. I know it's going to go on to, it'll be
Yes.
it will be a protected YouTube, so that it will only be available for people if they ask to see it. So, you know, is there anybody that would like to kick off and maybe start something that has something to say, or based on what Sean has said so far? Anybody at all? Yeah, Trevor.
Hi everyone. Okay.
Hi, Trevor.
I think I'm at an age now where I've been active for a very long time. I'm 62 years of age. When I first started off, I mean, I think even it appertains today, really. As a black actor, black actors really cannot really speak about racism, cannot really complain about racism until they ascertain a certain level. So, for example, about 2 or 3 years ago, there's an incident and Idris Elba was on TV. And Idris was talking about racism, etc., etc. But the best point Idris made was, if he had ascertained the level that he's at, he wouldn't be on that couch being asked about it. He wouldn't be able to vocalize what he and hundreds of other black actors felt, because should he have, if he was just starting out maybe, or only been in the industry for a short time, excuse the pun, he'd be blacklisted. Now that's the reality of it.
Yes, yes.
That is relative, okay? I've had a situation where I had a bit of a confrontation with a casting director's best friend, okay?
Right.
The casting director's best friend was racist. I worked with him outside of the industry in another job to supplement my income. He was a racist, okay? We were at the scenario one day where the casting director was there in this room, had an argument with his friend. He got involved. The argument spilled onto 3 of us. To this day, I have never been seen by that casting director. And that was over 25 years ago. Because that's the power that they have. Now, because I am the age that I am, I don't really give a hoot now. But if you would have said to me in the same scenario 30 years ago, 35 years ago, I would have been mulled. Because we know people in the industry have the power to send you in one direction or another. That is the truth. Secondly, labels. Who labels us as BME actors? Who? I'll tell you labels us. White, middle class, do-gooders, right, you know what I mean, right on people. No one's ever came to me, and I'll ask any of the brothers in here who are black, has anybody come to them and asked them, do you mind if we label you as a BME actor? No. Thirdly, and I always ask an agent when I go to it for representation, how do you see me? Do you see me as an actor who happens to be black, or a black actor? And they are two crucial and different scenarios. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So, Sean, what do you what's your response to that?
My response to that is, as black actors, we always have a lot on our plate, and we have to deal with a lot of things. And the gentleman there, the brother, was absolutely right by saying that we can't actually speak out for fear of being reprimanded, for not getting a job, for fear of not being able to express ourselves as human beings, not just as black people as we're labeled. We're all human beings, and that's what I believe. I don't believe somebody should be labeled because of his color or where he comes from, etc., etc. But what I truly believe is, as black actors, we are not giving the same opportunities as white actors?
You know, it seems to me that what Trevor said comes into play big time, because, you know, the industry, I don't like to use the word power, but they have if the word jurisdiction, the ability to sort of say, like you were saying, they can push you in one direction, or anybody in one direction, or push you in the other direction. And now I'm going to come back to you, Trevor. I just want to ask you, this is just my opinion, just a mere question. This casting director's friend, has he anything to do with the industry?
No.
Right. So that tells me that casting director was acting, and I'm going to swear here because it annoys me, in the most fucking unprofessional way ever. How dare he? How dare he do that?
Because again, like we say, you don't like to use the word power, but that is exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Like you say, the elephant in the room, as Sean has said.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it, but we know it's there.
No, well, the thing is, it's like, oh, like you were saying, you know, the elephant in the room, sweep it under the carpet, it'll go away, forget about it. That's what it boils down to. And then the thing is, this is whereby I'm not saying everybody should gang up on one person or whatever, but I do think that if a situation arises, okay, so Trevor, I'm going to ask you this because you've given a very valid story point. And so, okay, so for example, you walked into the rehearsal room tomorrow and started rehearsing for, I don't know, When We Are Married or whatever the play was, and you detected something that you thought somebody, or you heard something. For example, J.B. Priestley wouldn't have cast a black actor in that, right? Okay, so somebody says that. What would your reaction be? How would you react to that? Would you just let it go over your head, or would you actually personally say something? Because I know damn well I would.
I think Mark Oliver's in the room. Mark's a great mate of mine. Mark knows exactly my standing and how we are. Mark will tell you I'm vociferous, very vociferous when it comes to issues of race.
Right.
So for me to stay silent on something that matters to me, like Martin Luther King says, our lives begin to end. I will never, ever be silent.
Good.
But you have to remember, I'm saying that on my experience that I've had for a very, very long time and the level that I'm at. Personally, my experience, I don't care if you're the executive producer or you're a runner. If you're going to say something that's going to be offensive to me in terms of colour, all right, I'm going to be fronting you with that.
Yes.
In theatre, I think theatre's a different convention in terms of people go to the theatre to see the play. They go to see how the character is represented.
Yeah.
If a character, because let's be honest, when people write plays, 95%, unless you're specifically asked to do a work of black stuff, characters are written for white actors, okay? But a black actor could play a white character.
Absolutely.
Because in theatre, you look at the character, you don't really see.
Yes.
Well, that's a black actor playing it, or because the character has to be believable.
No, I'll give you a little example. Last night on BBC 4, I don't know if you saw it, the Royal Shakespeare Company did one of their live streams, and it was Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
And the young guy, I've forgotten his name now, who was playing Romeo. I'm sure it was an Indian. It was because I was just it on. But I didn't look at that and think, oh, it's an Indian actor playing it. It was Romeo and it was Juliet, and that was it.
Yeah, yeah. So if someone said to me that wasn't written for Priestley, hadn't written that with a black character in mind, I'd say, no, you're right, but you've got a black character doing it. So what?
Well, exactly. But right, what I'm going to do, thank you very much, Trevor. Sean,
Yes, sure.
what's your opinion? What's your input on that one? Is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
I'd just like to give a personal story of a situation that happened to me, let's say around about 7 months ago.
Right.
I was invited to a casting, and I got to the casting, I checked in and waited in the waiting room for my turn to be invited in so I could take my audition.
Yeah.
And while I was waiting in the waiting room, I noticed people were getting called in, and everybody except for me in that audition at that time were white actors. I didn't think anything about it. I was just going for an audition. That's the mindset that I had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I waited for my turn. Everybody was getting greeted while they were getting invited in, finished their auditions until they came to me and I was invited in.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the door opened, there was no, hello, how are you? There was no warm smile, there was no warm invite. But as I was sitting waiting for my turn, everybody was getting that warm invite. Everybody was being sort of invited in with joy and happiness. And for me, that sort of put a downer on the audition straight away, because I thought, hold on, everybody is being treated with courtesy. And as soon as I came to the door, to enter the door, there was no common courtesy at all. I was just like, I wasn't supposed to be there. That's how I felt. And for me, that put a real big downer on the actual audition. And I don't think I performed as I should have performed. And after the audition, I was sitting on the train thinking to myself, did that actually just happen? Should I actually be subjected to such a situation where I feel that I go somewhere to do my best and to perform to the best of my ability,
yes.
But then as soon as I enter a room, it's like a dark cloud sort of just covers you, and you feel like, hold on, am I even supposed to be here? You're not even welcomed. And this is honestly how I felt as an actor, because waiting in the actual waiting room for my turn, and everybody being invited in, I could hear laughter from within the actual audition room. Oh, that's great, blah, 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 oh, excited, oh, can you turn this way, take a shot? And mine was, yep, in, out, yeah, can you turn, do your profile? Okay, thank you. And then that was it. But every single other actor was getting a warm invite. Maybe it's just me, or maybe I'm overthinking it, but the situation just did not feel right. I did not feel welcomed. And as a human being, you shouldn't have to go anywhere in the world and not feel welcome.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not defending that situation from their side in any shape or form. But sometimes you can walk in and you get this kind of a hostile thing, vibe from these people. But based on what you've said and the fact that when you walked in, before you walked in, you could hear all the kind of bravado, laughing, clapping, and thank you very much and everything. But when you walked in, you felt a distinct difference. And
it was total silence. There wasn't even a hello. It was just, can you stand over there? Take your profiles. What's your name? Etc. Etc. Okay, thank you. And that was it.
You walked in. Oh, black man's walked in.
Basically, as soon as the door opened, obviously they saw I was black. So the reaction completely changed. So it's like the weather it was nice and sunny.
Yeah.
And
the
storm
cloud came over as soon as you walked through the door.
So for somebody to be subjected to that on a day-to-day basis, if you look at it in my terminology, it would affect a person. If you're not strong in the mind, it would affect you.
It does.
And you've been subjected to it on a day-to-day basis, not just for a week or 2 weeks or a month, but through your entire life.
Now, I'm not going to ask for names on this, and nor should I. But is this somebody that a casting director that is known in the industry? That's all I'm asking. Right. Okay. Fine. Are you represented by somebody, Sean?
I am. Yes.
Did you mention this to your agent?
At the time, no, I didn't.
Right.
I didn't mention it to my agent.
So your agent doesn't know anything about this then? Doesn't know that you had a bad feeling? Right, I'm going to tell you this.
No.
I'm going to make a very, very big suggestion here. And if you don't want to take it up, that's entirely up to you. Right, my agent, I've got a few agents, but one of my agents, the one I've got, I always let them know when I've been into an audition, yeah? I would say, right, I said, just to let you know, the audition went well, or, it wasn't really what I wanted. I didn't really feel happy. And I tell them, right? It might be 7 months down the line. And they may say to you, why didn't you mention it before? You can tell them why you didn't mention it before, because you felt you had to talk to people about it. Still tell them, yeah? It's a suggestion. You don't have to take me up on it. Speak to them.
I totally understand what you're saying and the angle that you're coming from.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from my point of view, being a young Black actor living in the UK, knowing there is systematic racism happening on a day-to-day basis, knowing that there may be times where you could go to a place where you will not feel welcomed or feel invited just because of the color of your skin, or maybe because of just the way you look, is a complete utter disgrace.
It shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen anywhere in the world.
No.
It shouldn't happen at all, for that fact of matter. And to say the least, that we had to come together to have this conversation because of what happened with recent events.
Yes,
is a sham.
Yeah,
it's really disgusting, because this is something that's always overlooked and it's never discussed. Because people always shy away from the actual matter, which I find very irritating.
Now,
but at times there's...
What I was going to say was, again, I'm not, you only do what you want to do. Nobody should be, I can suggest it. But my reason, you say you're a young actor. The thing is, let's just suppose you get called in to see that same casting director again for whatever reason, whatever job it might be. You don't want that to happen again here. Nobody wants it to happen to them. Nobody wants to feel welcome, okay? So the reason I say mention it is because my agent said to me, and I quote, are there any casting directors that you may have been in the room with and you'd rather not see them again? And there was one particular one I saw, and I said, I don't want to be put in front of that person because I thought they were very rude, I know they've got time limit and all the rest of it. So I said, no, just name that person. And so therefore they know not to put me in that room with that person. Because the thing is, when you go out for your next audition, Sean, you're going to go out there, and anybody else that's on here tonight, you go for an audition. If you've had a bad experience, because that's what it was, you're going to walk into that reception of wherever it be, whether it's Spotlight, where the green room, wherever the audition is, and you're going to be filling that form, and you're going to be sitting there, and you're going to be thinking to yourself, God, I hope it's okay when I walk in there again, because of that dreadful experience.
John, I understand where you're coming from. I agree with what you're saying, actually. But when you are treated in such a way, not just in the casting industry, in even everyday life, on the bus, on the train, anywhere, for that fact of the matter, it just shows how rampant the situation of racism is. It doesn't just have to be inside the casting industry or inside the acting industry. It happens to Black actors on a day-to-day basis, nearly everywhere.
100%.
It's easy for you to say, okay, you can have a word or say to the casting directors or to your agent that, don't put me back into that room. It's very easy to say. But the thing when it comes to me on my side is that it doesn't have to just be inside a casting room. It happens everywhere. And for me to keep my cool as a human being shows how much tolerance that I have for what's happening to me on a day-to-day basis. Even though I try my best as a father to shield my kids from it, it happens even when I'm with my children in shopping for just day-to-day things. So it's something that as a human being like myself cannot get away from. It's like something I'm subjected to on a day-to-day basis. And obviously I feel that it shouldn't happen. But people feel differently. They feel they have the right to treat black people the way they treat them. I don't feel that anybody has the right to treat somebody the way they want to treat them. Obviously, you should treat somebody on the basis of, I treat you how I want to be treated. So in return, you treat me the same way, and we have a good day, and we go about our day-to-day business.
Yeah, and it's a lot more easier said. It's a lot more easier said than done, isn't it, John? Sean, as well, because if you think about it, I suppose we all have these internal battles with ourselves as well. If I raise it to my agent or someone like that, so for example, if I were to raise it, I mean, I'm not represented at the moment. So if I were to raise it to my agent, I can relate to it because in my day job, my main income is as a barrister in the legal profession, where we get cases allocated to us and we've got to go to various courts and so on and so forth. So when we've had a particularly difficult, challenging client or an opposing solicitor or so on and so forth, and we bear the brunt of that. So often you tend not to feed that information back, because you have this inner monologue with yourself. You think, well, are there going to be reprisals for that? Am I then going to be getting work? Because like you said, John, the industry and all of these industries are powerful because they are the ones that are feeding us the work, which means they are controlling how much work comes our way. That being the case, if we as people of color raise our voice, what's going to happen? The term was used earlier, blacklisted. We don't get to see that. And that happens, like you said, Sean, unfortunately, it happens in pretty much all walks of life. Whenever I go to court and so on, I'm always, obviously dressed in my suit and so on and so forth. And not only do I look professional, but when I speak, I'd like to think that I come across as professional. So, but despite that, I've had experiences personally on trains where, oh, it's like that in India, is it? And so on and so forth. So you get these remarks, cutting remarks that come through. And I am someone who's used to thinking on the feet. And, you get the look, which I've had, and then it's a case of, oh, it's like that in India, is it? I said, well, actually, it could be far worse. When you are on a train in India, you might even have to stand outside and climb and sit on top. So you should be grateful. So I turned the tables on them. And I suppose in my line of work, my main line of work, I've had to develop a thicker skin, which I'm bringing to this arena as well. But the audition room is a very interesting one because almost that exact thing happened to me within the last 6 months. What was it? Well, I got to the audition. There were literally 3 people there. I was the 3rd person in. The other 2 were white candidates. And there were other, obviously, white people as well. And I said, well, look, I need to drive to the radio station. I do a radio show as well. I said, I need to drive further into East London. I do a radio show. So I've got to get to that by a certain time. So please, could you get me seen relatively quickly? I'd be very grateful for that. And I said, okay, well, there's only a few people here. So yep, there's no reason as to why that shouldn't happen. So I was there from 2:00 till at least 2:30, 2:35. And I said, well, what's going on? Because there were about 6, 7, 8 people had gone. They'd come after me. They'd been and gone. People kept coming in after me and they'd kept going. And I thought, well, what's going on here? And I said, well, look, I had mentioned and my message hadn't been communicated.
And what?
And like you said, Sean, when I went into the audition room, I thought, do you know what? As much as I've had that experience, I'm going to put that to the back of my head because I can't think like that. I've got to develop that thicker skin. And instead of the coldness, which, like with you, Sean, it was there, instead of that, I put I put a different hat on. I thought, you know what? I'm here for a reason. I'm going to just get into character straight away and just get on with it. So I sort of entered the audition room in character. So that was my way of dealing with things. I mean, people are fortunate that, you know, you can say things to agents, but people who don't have agents.
I'd like to say something if I can. My name's Mark.
Certainly, Mark. Hi, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I had an experience like Sean's. It was for a play of a film called Shawshank Redemption. So I was auditioning for the Morgan Freeman part, and I had to go in with a white guy. So obviously they knew I was black before I went in there. And I think it had been done in Ireland first, so they were all Irish. I think there was about 3 or 4 of them. There was quite a few on the panel. So I went in with another guy, another white guy, and it's like I wasn't there. Literally, they spoke to him. They didn't ask me anything. I read with him, and that was it. And I came out, and I was fuming, absolutely fuming, that 1, I allowed myself to be treated like that, and 2, that it happened. Yeah, but I was like, I knew I had to speak to my agent. It definitely could not go unsaid. But what I did, I caught the tube, I went to the gym, so I calmed myself down a bit, and then I came back and I spoke to my agent, because whether I got the part or not, I don't want to work with those kind of people at all. Like, the way I left that room, how I felt, it was, I just wouldn't want to have that job. But I had to relay that to my agent. I had to relay how disgusting they were, because if you don't tell people, they don't know. Yeah, and I think just going back to the Indian brother, the barrister, but I think when you're somebody of colour, yeah, this is our daily thing, yeah, and we don't know, is it somebody, are they having a bad day, or don't they like me because of the colour of my skin? Now, a white person doesn't think that. They just think, oh, they're having a bad day. But because of our history, we know that some people don't like us for the fact the colour of our skin. And this is, so then there's kind of like, and people don't understand us, you know what I mean? And people are scared of us, and then they say stuff that's like, come on, man, I'm a human being as well, man. Like, just be real, you know? Like, and I think we have to speak out. We have to speak out when something doesn't sit right. Do you know what I mean? We have to, because otherwise there'll be no change. And all you white people just think like, oh, it's fine. Like, you know, I felt uncomfortable about it, but then he didn't say no, so it's all right. You know what I mean? And it's not. It's really not.
No. Sorry to interject, Mark. Sorry to interject. I think the most frustrating thing is when you've been for an audition and you're in an audition room and there's 5 or 6 black guys all auditioning for the same part, and then your agent tells you they decided to go down another avenue. And that other avenue is they've cast a white guy for a black guy's part. You know? So, sorry for that anyway, but it just...
No.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because part of the difficulty is that many of us we're either typecast into roles which are, you know, for black people, it's going to be the hoodie and the thug and the gang and so on, because there's the dehumanizing aspect, which is consistently happening in the media. And it's just unfortunate. And of course, with the Indian stroke Pakistani people, you know, people from my background, it's a similar story. You would rarely ever, I mean, come on, anyone name me 5 films where, you know, people like me are leads, for example. It's unheard of. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
It doesn't right.
You know, Riz Ahmed got a role as, Riz Ahmed did that Venom, and that was a huge thing. But since then, nothing. And even up to then, where? So
Thank you, Tay. Meryl, I think you wanted to say something, didn't you? Your hand's been popping up and down.
It has been. It has been. I just wanted to say that the last week when Black Lives Matter has just been breaking my heart. And how it must. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
And how it must be for you guys, you know, with your the Black community and the Indian community as well. I cannot. I can get just a glimmer, you know, of times that I have felt. I did have I would like to finish the point of when I felt that. That wasn't the point I wanted to make. So I wanted to say that I hear you, and I think that the everything that's been going on has been necessary because you've been saying loud and clear, you know, it has to stop. I think the issue is that you know, in our sort of the acting community is generally supportive, and the Twitter community is generally kind of, you know, right on and all of that. Is what happens next, you know, when you how do you know that, you know, if we're going to stick with theatre and performance, how do you know you're heard? What needs to happen next? You know, that's what I'm asking, and that's what we would like to learn or to understand. I don't know whether any of us have any answers. You know, what do we do next?
Sorry, Cynthia. You know, sorry. If I'm taking over, please check me. It's just my emotions.
I'm going to move on to Hannah because she'd like to ask something.
Sorry, Hannah.
That's all right. Yeah.
Hi. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, and also Meryl, I completely agree. I can feel that too. And from these stories, I feel like as white people, we have a responsibility to look out for Black people and look out for minority ethnics. Like if we go to an audition, we have to say something. Like if we see something, and we might not always see it because we're white and we're privileged and we don't see everything, but we need to educate ourselves so that we do see these injustices, because it's not fair. It's really not fair. And you know, it's completely fine, Sean, that you might not feel comfortable to talk to your agent. I think that is completely valid. You know, you might not get heard. You don't get heard in other aspects of your life. So yeah, I can understand that. So, you know, white people, we need to talk to our agents. If we see it, we need to say, look, this casting director hasn't treated this person with respect. You know, we have to, I know it's like, we don't have the power as per se, but we kind of do. We kind of really, really need to speak up, especially as white people. We need to be good allies and just raise these voices. So I'm really sorry that these things have happened to you, but hopefully these things will change.
Yeah. Well, as I reiterate keep saying so many times, I assume all of you follow the Support British account. I keep saying, you know, support for everybody, and more so now. What more can I say on that? You know, and we are there for you, and you know, yes, we have to be aware that you know, there are BAME actors we're working with, but you know, I don't know if I'm speaking out of term here, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I walk into a rehearsal room, whatever. You're all fellow actors. You're all there because you're talented, and that's how I see it. But I tend to, if I hear anything personally from somebody saying something about somebody else, or even commenting, I'm not saying that particular person, whether it be Sean or whether it be Mark, or you know, isn't going to speak up and say something. Or I would never step in, but I will not see somebody, and I use the word bullied because that's what it. I'm not going to swear again. There are children here, and I apologise for swearing earlier. But I will speak up. If I will defend that person, because it's just not acceptable.
So can I just interrupt just for a second, because I think this is part of the problem. You know, you said that, you know, you see a group of actors. Well, that's great, but like, if I'm in the room, I'm a black actor. I want you to see me as a black actor. I'm not just because I see you as a white actor. To say you don't see me, it's like, it doesn't make sense. Because when I look in the mirror, I see black. So when people go, I don't see colour, I see a group of actors, I'm like, that's part of the problem.
That is Mark, and that is the issue, John. Because you've got to remember, it's from our perspective. The problem we have here now is every black actor in this room, when he goes for a next audition, and he should get the part, because racism is so entrenched in our industry and outside, we are going to think, right, because of all the protests, have I got this on merit? Or am I being a token again? Because we have to fill the diversity quota. We have to tick the box. That is, unfortunately and sadly, the reality. We've had discussions with black actors, with black footballers, with lots of people, different arenas this week. And we've all said the same thing. The doubt, what we will have in our minds now, and it's sad, when you turn on the television and there's more than 1-2 black actors in a series, we're going to go. And is that because we fulfill the criteria, or is it because we've got to be seen to do the right thing?
Well, I'm going to answer that, Trevor, because I think there's been a big push in getting more black faces, colours faces on the screen, full stop. So we see black families in adverts now where we would never have seen that before. Do you know what I mean? So, like, you know, Mel, you talked about Twitter. I've seen some comments on Twitter where people are going, bloody hell, what are these faces in our screen? And I've even heard black people say as well, going, bloody hell, like all these black people on TV, on the adverts, we've never saw that. And I suppose it's positive discrimination, isn't it? And that's a way of moving forward.
I would say it's reverse racism in a sense. Sorry to jump in on you. Just interject quickly. I would just say it's reverse racism in a sense. The industry wants to be seen as helping black actors or giving black actors a platform so they're seen. But then to me, it just looks like reverse racism. You're only doing it so black actors think that you're giving them a leg up. And we as human beings refer to each other as black, white, and Indian, and yellow. We need to maybe stop referring to each other in the form of colors. We're all human beings, but it's like I think we've lost the sense of reality of interacting with each other. Yeah. So it's really hard nowadays for us as humans to come together and sit down. That's why one of the main reasons as well, I wanted us to have this conversation and just get an understanding of each other.
Yes.
I think it's lost. We're sort of losing touch of reality as human beings, because we are all different in a sense, but we're different for a reason. We're different because we can all learn from each other and take different things from each other, which in a sense makes us better human beings. But if we continue to refer to each other as white, as black, as Indian, I think we just going back instead of going forward. And this is one of the main reasons as well I wanted to have this conversation, and we should continue to have these conversations, is so we understand each other. So it's an open plane, everybody has the discussion, everybody says their piece, and we learn from each other. I think, and that's the beauty of being a human being, and that is being lost.
Definitely.
Wanted to add, John?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I didn't mean to mark any offence when I said I just see a group of actors. The point I was trying to make was, in a reflection to what Sean has just said, you know, we are people. I am fully aware I would walk in, and if my partner said to me, what are the casts like that you're going to be working with? I would say, you know, there's 3 people, a black actress and there's a white actor. Sorry, a black actor and there's a black actress.
Why?
As well.
Why?
Why would I say that? Because I'm identifying the fact that there is, as Mark said, because there are people, somebody else from you know, a black person, and but I would never say it meaning in the sense, oh, I'm working, because that's not how I see it. But that is just a group of people, a group of actors that I'm working with, and as Sean said, I would be working with these people and getting to know, and I'm always interested in meeting and hearing about other people and where their background and everything. So I don't then see it just as, you know, it's a respect for people from different minorities, but I don't see it. We are a group of actors. That's just how I see it, but it's without say with any disrespect.
Right, John. So that's the way then that you should explain it. If someone says to you, "Who's in your cast?" If it was me, I'd say 7 actors, 3 women, 4 men.
Yes.
When they come and see the production,
yeah,
they will identify who is black and who is white.
Yes,
well, that's irrelevant. So, but if this is what I'm trying to say about people emphasizing that scenario. What Sean said is right in an ideal world.
Yes.
In an ideal world,
yes.
Right? I coach football at professional level. Right?
Right.
I'm not working, right? When I go scouting a kid, I would say, who's the number 9? That number 9 may be a black kid, it could be a white kid, it could be a Chinese kid. I say, who's the number 9?
Yeah.
Right? If he's not got a number on him, right, then I will say, who's the Chinese kid? Who's the black kid? Right?
Yeah. Yes.
When I walk on a set or in the theatre, and people say to me, who's in the cast?
Yeah.
I'll say 4 women, 3 men. I don't have to say the colour.
No.
Agreed.
You understand?
Agreed.
Yeah.
100% agreed.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem with castings these days, that so very many of them, when I read them and I'm thinking, do you know what? I can do that role, I can do that role, I can do that role, I can do that role. Oh, look, white. Written for a white guy, written for a white guy, written for a white person. Just think. It's at that level, isn't it? It's at that level that this needs to be rectified. And
it's just like
one of the more frustrating issues, Trevor, that I've faced is that there are these divides and differences between Indian, Pakistani, and Bangladeshi, right? If you're Indian, you might get up the ladder a bit more. If you're Bangladeshi, perhaps a bit more or a little bit less. If you're Pakistani, you're at the bottom of the pile.
Okay, well,
and
I've personally experienced that.
Yeah,
I live in Dubai.
You know what happens also? What happens is we have a different aspect of racism within the industry. So, for example, a black production will be shown on mainstream TV 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay, that's fact. If you ask any black actor,
ridiculous.
That will be shown. But let me just say this to you, Tahir, now, right? But if it's an Asian program, this is where we have the other aspect of racism. An Asian program, 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10 gets primetime TV. August Wilson, right, for 3 years, BBC 1, BBC 2, massive, great drama, right? When the BBC asked, could they take it off him and do it, and he said no, it went to 11:30, 12 o'clock, 1, and then went off the screens. Okay? So you have that aspect as well, Tahir, you know? Anyway, let someone else speak.
Right.
Sorry.
Can I just come in on a few points? Hi, everybody. I'm Mark. How do you do?
Hiya.
I'm writing, it's not because I'm a reporter or anything. I was just listening to some of the stories that you've, well, your stories. Sean, now you mentioned how it made you feel, and my heart like sank. I'm surprised it didn't hit the floor like a stone. It's really sad to hear that kind of thing going on, because mental health amongst black men is exceptionally high. And I don't need to go on about the numbers. It's not just acting, it's in many professions. That's one of the points. Trevor, I was disappointed that your career could have come to an end because a casting director or someone you've come across has decided that they don't like you. It seems a bit school playground. It's your whole life is dependent on. It's like we do many jobs in our life, and to have one of the employees that I may have come across in other professions, because I do other things as well, to have suddenly ended my career is just sounds absolutely ludicrous. But some of the points I'd like to make is, I think I'm sorry, I don't know your name. This is Support British.
John. I'm John. Sorry.
Sorry. One of the points. One of the points I would make is that, I don't want to go on too much about the stand-up hashtag Me Too, but I think that when any of us see some kind of discrimination, we have a right and responsibility to society itself to say, that boy is being bullied, that woman's being bullied, why are you treating that person that way? I think we all have responsibility. I think change is here, because like I said, I was watching the riots, protests, but they've been called riots, and they were black and white. I was absolutely astounded. They were very black and white. Now, I was saying, I've made a note here, that protesters, they've been to school together, they've worked together, they've been to college together, they go clubbing together, they date together, they get married together, they have children together, they work together. So when you approach someone and you these days have some kind of derogatory attitude, it's like you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know if that person's got a white partner, a black partner, if their grandparents are black or white. So I think change is here. I think there are underlying issues, because this all started with something in America, and it's in Manchester, Bristol, London, Australia, New Zealand. It's all over the world. So clearly, it's not about what it seemed to be initially. There's a serious underlying issue that is throughout the world. I am personally, when I saw them pulling that statue down, I mean, it seems like anarchy, but part of me says, what was that statue doing there? Okay, it's wrong what they did in the cenotaph and all, a lot of the stuff that went on there was wrong, because you get people involved to hijack peaceful, proper, legitimate protests and kind of tarnish it. But I think that the overall issues that we're seeing in the profession is not just in the profession, it's in society. And something's gone wrong where, in terms of, I don't know, whose elections, and we all know we've swung extremely to the right, and the pendulum somehow with the young people have said, well, actually, no, that's not where we're at. Yeah. And I think what's happening in the profession is a reflection of what's happening in the wider world itself.
Thank you. Well, I think, were you going to say something, Ram? I think you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to make many remarks, actually, on the topic in general. For everybody who's new and never know me before, my name is Ram. And I happen to be an Arab and a Muslim as well. So I've really been really stressed since the period of the passing of George Floyd. I've been really outraged by the fact not only about his passing, it's just in general, racism in general. I happen to live in Dubai, and Dubai, like everybody knows, it has many nationalities. I believe there's like 90% of, 90 nations, people who happen to be from all walks of life and cultures. But I've been in such situations, not in the country, but when for example, I'm talking with people online, especially if I was playing a game, for example. My English is really good. I'm really fluent with it. So usually they'll text me back and say, when they figure out that I'm an Arab, oh, so you guys do blow shit up, don't you? It'd be like, no, we don't do that. We usually get a lot of these things. And so it just, from my side, because remember, John, the last time I asked about the beard and my age and my voice with Adam Morley, that meeting.
Yes. Yeah.
there was another remark I wanted to mention about the beard bar and my age, but I didn't want to because it wasn't suiting for the part. It's also something racist in general, kind of. You see, we Arabs, we do tend to grow beards. I do it for fashion. I don't do it because I'm religious. Plus, it doesn't grow that long. But I do it for fashion, all right? So kids my age who are white people from the Western part, they don't have that, you know, that thing. So when Adam Morley told me to play my age, which is 20 years old, I was like, to get as close to my playing age as possible, because I can sound and look like I'm a 35-year-old, but I can't be, I'm not that mature yet, is what I mean. And and if I lose it, I look really bad looking. I don't look nice and it doesn't fit. Many things don't work. So I've always had that issue. And I also had the fear to walk up on an audition if I ever went to the Western, because everybody knows here, the ones who know me, I'm trying to go to Canada, then to Los Angeles, hopefully in the future. I'm usually scared to mention that I'm an Arab. I'm usually scared to mention that I'm Muslim in general, and have a beard as well. Oh, goodness gracious. So usually what I want to just give an insight to everybody is about the remarks people get when we say black people. When the first thing pops up and you say black people to a white man in America, for example, just say America, for example, it would be a gangster, a thug, a killer, a murderer, right or wrong. Same goes to Latinos.
Not sure about that.
We can all assure you. I can literally assure you that it's always on Twitter. Latinos, rapists, Arabs, terrorists. I mean, it's also been on the news. Come on, even Donald Trump, he said it as well. So Asians as alien-looking creatures. We all walks of life, other than white people. There's always these remarks that have been told to other cultures in the world, like thugs, gangsters, terrorists, etc. And when it comes to white people, what do we call white people? Nothing, because we don't call white people anything. In general, worldwide, you may, as an individual, have a remark for white people, but worldwide, nobody knows them as whatever, you know? So that's the thing that I want to like embark on, if just want to get to life, because I find black people as talented people. I find them as artistic people. I never met an I have many black people best friends. My best friend here knows about him. He loves to dance. He loves to play music. Like, they're so talented. In other words, Asian people, they're so smart, they're innovative, and they create a lot. Arab people are hardworking. They're really good at work. So why don't we look at other cultures and races in that aspect, and not these negative remarks that I was mentioning before? That's the thing that I was remarking at. That's the thing that I would love to change in general. In whenever I meet somebody who wants to talk about these things, I always tell them, why don't you look at us Arabs as hardworking people, or black people as talented, hardworking people as well, Asians as innovative people. So I've always had the fear, number one, in the artistic entertainment industry type of aspect. I'm afraid when I go there that they're gonna find out that I'm an Arab or a Muslim at worst. That's a fear that they would actually cancel me on spot, or they would scream or make remarks as well, like Sean and Mark mentioned before. That's the thing as well, you know, that I'm actually also afraid of. Number two, the remarks that I just mentioned about cultures. If you're a white person and you've never been to the Middle East, if you've never been to Africa, if you've never been to Asia, and you've experienced the culture of these people, or even South America, if you haven't experienced who these people are, the cultures, how they are, meet them on spot, see how generous they are, see how beautiful they are, see the culture. That's the aspect that I was always delivering to the people who talk about race or racism in general. Go to that country. If you feel like we're terrorists and we're, you know, extremists, go to the country. Go to Dubai, go to Saudi Arabia, go to Syria, go to Lebanon, and see the generosity to yourself, see the culture to yourself, see the people to yourself. Then judge. That's the point. But people are being judgmental just because of the media. And that's that's the devil incarnate. That's the media, and we all can agree. So these are my points.
Thank you.
100%. 100%.
So, is there anybody got anything else that would like to say anything? Hello, Kate. Hello. Hi. Is there anything
Sorry,
you?
I'd unmute myself.
That's all right. No worries. Is how do you feel about all of this? I mean, I'm sure that it's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what Meryl said before. I mean, with everything that's gone on over the past couple of weeks, I felt really not just upset, but I don't think I've ever felt so powerless and frustrated at seeing something play out and knowing that I don't really have anything that I feel that I can do to make it better. And so what I wanted to do more than anything was to start at the bottom and to start kind of learning a bit more about how these experiences are for Black people and what that really feels like. And I have to be completely honest and say that I've been so ignorant for a long time in assuming that this was actually something of the past, and I really didn't realise, apart from the obvious arsehole that is Donald Trump, I didn't realise racism was as rife as it is. And that's my lack of awareness. And I suppose what I was going to say before is I kind of smiled when you said about the power of social media and Twitter and how we're able to do that. I often, as you do, John, try to use my social media to kind of put stuff out there to get a bigger audience. But I think what I'm learning over the last couple of days is it's actually maybe more important to actually take those conversations a lot closer to home. And I feel like I'm having to actually sit down with family members and friends to discuss feelings that you don't really even know your own family have sometimes. And being Bristol based, there's been a lot of conversation obviously since what happened with the statue in the river, and mixed opinions. And I think it's just, I don't know, I feel like I need to kind of go back into the small, as I say, educating and discussing stuff, and then learn. And really, I just wanted to, I suppose, I don't know, this might sound strange, but since what's happened, I've almost felt embarrassed to look at a Black person in the street because I'm so ashamed. And I've never felt like that before. I'm just ashamed sometimes of white privilege. And I want to help out as much as I can, really. And I'm trying to learn how is best to do that, really. So,
well, I think that we, with your very supportive account and hopefully the little bit of a contribution I tried to make with Support British, I think that, we've got to go away and think about these things ourselves as individuals, and but we can only do what we can do at the moment on social media. Try to be as supportive and embrace as everybody and try to understand. I don't know if I'm making sense there, but that's you feel helpless, don't you?
Yeah.
Could I just say something as well? Can I just remind? Is that all right? Absolutely, John, and absolutely, Kate, and we listen and we learn and we try and understand, and I just thinking for myself, what white people can do, because there is white privilege, is listen and understand, but then amplify as much as we can. Because it's not our voices necessarily that need to be heard. Amplify, and you know, it's like the onion ringing. You know, you kind of, there's so many bits that we need to work on. It's the bigger picture. It's the kind of politics and the culture and all of that, and then it's sort of the smaller within the industry. And so there's big things we can do. We can use our social media accounts. I mean, you've got a, you know, stonking great big following, Kate. You know, as do you, John. So you have a bigger reach, but we amplify through that, and then on a smaller way, you know, through the kind of work that we choose to do and all of that. Plus, what I'm sorry, I missed your name. I think it was Hannah that spoke kind of earlier on. I think, you know, about sort of if something is going on in a you know, audition room or so on, we support and, you know,
yeah, absolutely.
And is there anything else? I'm asking, you know, the Black community here and Indian, you know, is there anything else in the immediacy that we can do? You know, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, exactly.
I think sometimes
I just want to say something.
So was it Alexander? Were you about to say? Was it Alex? Yeah. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. Hi everyone. What I would really like to add to this point is that I would like the whole, in the face of the industry, the way they think, the way they feel about we BAM, so-called BAM actors, you know, I would like that to change. Okay. Because in the sense that if they all see each talent, each artist for who they are, not because of color of their skin, not because of you know, maybe this one is taller or this one. If they just see them for who they are, you know, all this problem will not be occurring and coming back again and coming back again, you know. So it's very, 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 very important. You know, I had a similar experience about the audition process. You know, sometimes like I always feel like, why am I even in this room? You know, why do I even went into audition for that role? You know, because like I feel like I wasn't, you know, I wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. Like just wasting of time and wasting of transportation money, stuff like that. But at the same time, I always feel like, okay, you know what to do. You face, I face say different kind of difficulties in terms of racism, because I used to play football before. You know, I played to semi-pro level, which there's loads of obstacles in terms of racism I faced during my playing football from amateur division to semi-pro before I finally quit playing football. You know, so I believe like the way some of my colleagues have spoken earlier, like if they see something that is not good, it's not right during the audition process or during the castings, they should be able to speak up, you know, on behalf of this person, that person. If I, as well as Alexander, I see something that is not right during the audition process, I should be able to raise it up as well, because at the end of the day, you would know, each and every one of us would know you've done your part, even though if they didn't listen to you at that moment. And trust me, the more we raise our voice, the more everything is going to be fine at the end of the day. That's all I have to say. Yeah.
No, I absolutely and totally and utterly agree there, because, you know, it is going right back to what you were saying, Sean. You know, there is that, you know, if you have one bad experience, it makes you wonder what is the next experience going to be like. And because you've got so much that has happened to you on the periphery to the industry, Does that make sense? I mean, you know, I've seen it in the sense that you know what I mean? And you've had bad experiences external to the business, so you've got all that going on in your head. And then when you're trying to do your job, you're trying to get a part, you're going for an audition, and then you get crap like that when you walk into the audition room.
It's totally unfair. Back to what I was saying about understanding each other and getting to know each other's good and bad habits. It's something that we need to do. It's something we need to continue with dialogue, open discussions.
Yeah.
We need to speak to each other. We need to get to understand each other. That's the only way we can learn and take the good and with the bad as well. And that's the only way we can elevate ourselves, which isn't being done. Obviously, it's not a thing where it's one person, one group of people's fault. As people, we should all come together. We should rally together and help each other, because everybody goes through different situations. But it seems like us, we are subjugated to a lot of the racism. It's systematic and it's rampant, and it's not being dealt with. You know, and lots of people do shy away from it because obviously it's not happening. If it's not happening to you, you sort of don't want to know about it. If that makes sense, in a sense, you just want to let it disappear. But if it did happen to you on a day-to-day basis, I'm pretty sure you'd want something done. But then day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year, and do you know what I mean, 10 years, 15 years, and it's like a continuous cycle, and nothing is ever done about it. It's just forgotten. So it's something that we need to always just keep on discussing about and keep on bringing into light. Because the more we educate ourselves about this matter and the situations that are happening in multiple places all around the world, that's how we can deal with the situations collectively and what's happening. But without that, there's a lack of understanding and a lack of appreciation for each other as human beings. Everybody wants a good life, don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to get up in the morning, go out and provide for themselves or their families. But nobody wants to go out feeling that, okay, today is going to be that day. Maybe if I go shopping with my family, somebody's going to stare at me the wrong way. Why? Because of how I look, or they feel intimidated because I'm a big guy, I'm huge. Nobody should be belittled in such a way where they actually feel that they can't conduct themselves in a day-to-day aspect of their lives and do what they wish to do as a person, and feel that, if I do this, am I going to be looked at in a certain way? Or can I actually say this and that person will not take it in the wrong way or in a wrong context? So it's just a lack of communication and understanding. And we've sort of, as human beings, have parted from each other when we should sort of embrace each other and come together and come to common terms to understand each other, which is not being done, because everybody sort of is skeptical. Oh, can I say this? Can I have an open conversation? But we're all human beings. We can ask questions, and that's the only way we can understand. By asking questions, by speaking to each other. If we don't do that, we're not learning in a sense, and things get worse. And yeah, that's generally why I wanted to touch base on this matter.
I think as well, I think sometimes there are times where something inappropriate might be said, yeah, and if there's more than one black person in the room, every black person's looking at each other like, did they just say that? And everybody else, all the other white people are going like nothing's happened, because they don't know. And that is what the thing, and I've got an example for this. So the other day I watched an episode of Coronation Street and watched it because I knew that they had this race issue coming up. So what had happened was, this guy had said, oh, you're going to go home and have some rice and peas. So that was a little comment. Now, not all black people eat rice and peas. I'm Jamaican. They're like that's rice and peas is a Jamaican thing, but there's African, there's both. All the other Caribbean, like my girlfriend's Barbados, they don't eat rice and peas in Barbados. So all of a sudden it's like, what? So all black people eat rice and peas? Do you know what I mean? It's just there's lots of little stuff like that we know that you don't know. So then it becomes a thing to us. Because if there's more than one black person in the room, guarantee they would. If someone says, you're going to go and have some rice and peas, the other black person's going to look at the other black person. And everybody else might just have a little laugh and think, oh, that's all right. But It's those little things, you know what I mean?
The
It's
same thing.
stereotyping, isn't it? It's you know, the kind of stereotypes, you know, because of your colour, that's what you do, that's what you eat. It's ignorance.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, there's something else, I think, is what's that old saying? And I think it's used a lot, and that is, never judge a book by its cover.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I could actually
That
add,
makes, what do you think, Trevor? Do you think that makes sense, or am I talking rubbish?
Like I said, I mean, I was waiting, sorry, because I didn't want to reject, because I saw Reese with his thumb up, so I thought, you know, that's why I've not said anything. So I think, because I've spoken, I'll probably, you don't mind. I know what you're saying, but I think I'll pass it on to Reese, who's been waiting for a bit. Is that all right?
Yeah, by all means, yes. Okay, over to you then, Reese.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm a relatively new actor to the world in doing this, so I think, like, honestly, that acting has a unique position to, instead of art mirroring life, life to mirror art, or at least imitate the art. Because, you know, if you take the thing of Morgan Freeman, for years elevated himself, ended up playing President of America in one of the films, and then America had a black president. So it's kind of an aspirational thing that we as new actors, young actors, or actors in general are given the opportunities to play a variety of roles, to show the world that there is no typecasting, there is no stereotype. John Boyega first started in Attack the Block playing a hoodie, and now John Boyega is now seen as someone in Star Wars and other roles. Yeah. So it's just the fact that if I do go for an audition, I'd like the ability to not be seen as the colour of my skin, because that's not what I see when I wake up in the morning. I just see me. But to be accepted and to be given a fair opportunity to just play a variety of roles. You know, I've moved into voice acting where I can remove the image of my face and I can play a variety of different voices. But cool. Should I have to think that that's an option where I have to limit myself from visual acting because there might be a prejudice held against me because of the color of my skin? So I don't want to have those feelings. I'm not saying that I do now, but I think as a profession that, you know, we all help each other and we have the actual opportunity to, you know, just a fair opportunity is, guess what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
I'd like to add a remark to what Mark said. Excuse me, Trevor. But what Nathan also said, micro-racism. Most of the war movies that we see about, you know, in Hollywood, especially in Iraq, aside the fact that any Arab or Muslim actor would become the terrorist, let's put that aside. The way they act, just by the fact you could actually just get somebody who can actually speak Arabic. He would say one word in Arabic. Haza means him. Then he would say, what? It's like, we don't understand what you're saying. At least get a voiceover, any actor who actually speaks Arabic, and just let him speak Arabic. Because it's not fun. It's like micro-racism, like what Nathan Gardner said. It is, because one day me and my father and my cousin watched it, and we were like, what on earth did he just say? We didn't even understand what he was saying. Oh, they were adding the kha part as well. It's like, you're making it worse. You're making it obvious that it's racist in a sense. And it's like all over the world type of movie. I don't remember what it was, but I'll find it for you guys one day. But seriously, like, that's also another thing I wanted to add to, you know, remark with Mark.
Yeah, I think, sorry, go on.
May I say something? Sorry, I've had a jet here. I've had a problem with my camera, and then I'm not able to turn it on. I apologize. But I just wanted to say that that's been so great to hear everyone. Just wanted to make a point, which some of us has already said, but I just wanted to emphasize it, that the problem, you know, goes beyond the arts, unfortunately. And as like Kate was saying, that, you know, we need to carry on having these uncomfortable conversations about race and equality with, you know, our kids, parents, friends, and hopefully we, you know, that hopefully in the future we don't press the same button again, and again. So I feel that this is all helpful, but I want us all to understand as well that the problem is so ingrained in our society in general, and even, you know, things we learn and don't learn at school, for example. Nowadays, I was reading about this operation called Operation Legacy, that apparently a British colonial office, it was a program to destroy all files that the ex-colonies of the British Empire may find and, you know, use against them. So it's just, you know, this thing that, you know, we are only told the good stuff that the British Empire has done. We don't, you know, see what the other cultures has, you know, have already done. We sort of like, you know, put in this pedestal, you know, what we learn, only the good things we learn, and we, you know, we don't learn about the ex-colonies. We don't learn about the, you know, the slaves and all, you know, Black History Month. We just don't learn it, and then I feel that sort of like prepares you already to, you know, alienate the other. You know, what's different is strange. So it's just, the problem is just so ingrained in how we live that, you know, it's a very hard thing to dismantle. Again, like having those conversations like this with our kids, it's so important. But I feel that, you know, we sort of like going forward have to ask perhaps of, you know, our leaders, you know, how the curriculum of our kids are, you know, being led. Like, I don't know if I'm making any sense at all. I hope I am. So yeah, the problem is very, very ingrained in our society, and I feel that education has, you know, a lot to do with it. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my point. Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed. Anybody? What about Kerry? Have you got anything? What would you like to say?
Well, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to say anything, but a lot of people talk about what Britain doesn't teach, but a lot of the schools today don't teach British history. They teach English history, and there's a big difference. So when people say they leave out, prejudice exists, and I think it will always exist because it's part of the human psyche. And by prejudice, I'm talking about people being afraid of either what they don't understand or they don't recognize as us. And for me, what I try to do is by saying, I won't talk about certain things, not because I want to put it underneath the carpet, because for me, it isn't important. I love creativity. When I see somebody good on stage, they're good on stage. I don't care if they're pink, blue spots, tall, short, fat, thin, male, female, English, Welsh, Scottish, or any other nationality, whatever the accent is. But we do have prejudices here. Most of the experiences, all these guys, I'm the same age as you, Trevor, yeah? So between us, I'm convinced.
I'm not far behind.
Yeah.
How old are you again, Trevor? So if you don't mind me asking, how old did you say you were?
Well, darling, what age would you
21. We're both 21, John. Can't you tell? It's that handsome look.
It's just, I've got my lockdown beard on.
Okay. Well,
yeah,
now you're locked in beard.
I am you on twice.
Yeah, I'm 62. I'm 62. Yeah.
No.
Same as me. So basically is that I grew up in a small mining village. Because I was lucky enough to get into a good school, I then faced it because people knew where I was from. So I had all the jokes about that, all the moving out. Because my name isn't a typical Welsh name, I had all the jokes about that, being an outsider, therefore what do I know? I come into England. It was interesting that my English cousins, they were taught certain aspects of history, and I was taught certain aspects of Welsh history and the differences. and the prejudices. Like the English history didn't talk about the slavery, the enslaving of Welsh people in their history and how they were taken away and forced to work. If they were caught speaking Welsh, they could be hung. All of that wasn't taught in the schools. You know, until I started getting older and being a bit more confident myself, I came to England. As soon as they heard my voice, which is a lot stronger back then, I'd hear a sheep joke 3, 4, 5 times a day. Now, in comparison, because I can walk around looking like this, therefore I don't get picked on unless I talk. I can't understand. I can't feel what you guys feel from walking around because of my friends that I've gone around with, and I've heard people speak to them. And I'm one of these. I'm a typical Tyrian Welsh guy, if you want to stereotype me. I'm like Jack Russell. Somebody shouts, "I bark, I bite." And I got my friends holding me back, and it's not worth it, it's not worth it. And all I want to do is jump up and down. I was involved with the project. One of my cousins, she was an English lecturer at university, and she wanted to do a bilingual multicultural. Because I'm bilingual and my background, I was one of her study. And one of my other cousins, Kamal, who was from India, therefore, and he was Muslim, so he had other things he's going in to be able to take a look at how that was. Now, it was interesting that we were probably closer, although to look at us, you're going, okay, he looks like an Indian, he talks like an Indian, and he's a Muslim, and I'm not. You're going, they're not the same. But the similarities between us over our experiences was incredibly close. That's what really the study was going out. And it's very difficult to be able to pick. I had one director tell me, I'd done a couple of plays. He said, "You do realize, Kerry, you'll never go very far. Why is that?" "Well, because you're Welsh." And he wasn't saying it in a he did not see how bad that was as a comment. To him, he was just trying to dampen down my aspirations by saying, "You're not going to get very far here because you're Welsh and that accent is bad." But it's stereotypical. They want a stupid guy in a film. "All right, we don't talk like that. It's great, that." They want the village idiot. "All right, he's going to be like that then, isn't it?" It's like you're picking all of these things out for doing all of that, and you pick and do the accents.
Kerry,
So,
if I may, I had that when because I started just over 30 years ago, and somebody said to me, "Oh, what with that accent? You're from Hull. You'll never go very far." I said, "What about Tom Courtenay? What about John Alderton?" Don't shut the bloody mouth when I said that. Excuse me, I've sworn again. You know what I mean? But it's so true, isn't it? And it is. It's you know what we are as people, as actors, and we all have something to contribute.
But there are fears. I was in a play last February, and we've been experimenting, sort of doing the workshops over the last summer. And I was really worried about being in it. And I spoke to the director a few times and the writer, because I was thinking of pulling out. Because although I started from a poor white background, I'm now classed as a middle-class white background. And I'm standing there talking about, or at least one of my character roles was injustices of black people dying in police cells. So part of the play was going on about Sarah Reid, Christopher Alder, Leon Patterson, Smiley Culture, those people who are back in the news again, and quite rightly back in the news. These were atrocious events. But I was worried about the message being diluted, but they persuaded, and I'm so proud of being part of that team. We were hoping to take it on tour. Well, COVID got in the way, but there are still plans for us to hopefully take it on tour later on. But now I think it's even more to let people understand that you also have quiet prejudice, quiet racism. We all have different dictionaries. An English person might say something they find inoffensive, but from my background, I'll go, that's bloody offensive. But I don't know. It's just, it's a little bit. It just means, I suppose, I understand, but I think it's more concentrated for you guys.
Can I just ask everybody a question? What do you think is the catalyst that everybody wants to change? Right, because we've had this scenario with Rodney King. We've had it with Stephen Lawrence, right? We've had massive riots. Is it because we live in a digital age and that we've actually seen this thing live, do you think? Because for me, I'm thinking in my lifetime, I've faced racism 24/7, subliminally, you know what I mean? Outwardly, whatever. But Stephen Lawrence was an horrendous situation. The guy from Liverpool, Walker, coming home from a football match. And these were all black kids who were murdered, okay? Some by police, some by people in the street. And there was opposition to that. There was marches, there was, you know, protest. Why has it took this scenario to see people suddenly think we've got to make change? I'm not being pessimistic. I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Why? Is it because we live in a digital age and people see it live?
Yeah. Can I come in? Just to you know, add to what you were saying. Yes, you know, the question I was asking myself, you know, why now? Because there has been. I mean, I have white hair. I'm old. You know, there has been so much over the years, and why now? And I think perhaps it is the digital age, and we need to embrace that, and that is, you know, really sending that voice out there. And it's the, you know, I was listening, I mean, it sounds so terribly, you know, white middle class, doesn't it? But I was listening to Radio 4, and there was a program, and it was saying, you know, that it was. I'm sorry if this is going to be distressing, and I think it probably is, but it was that, and it was just so awful because he was calling for his mum, and it was the humiliation and the shame, and it's been gone all around the world. And I think it's also perhaps that you know, we now have Donald Trump, who is just such a idiot, and everything else, and it's just all these things kind of layering on, and so I don't know, but I just kind of was thinking about change, you know. I mean, you picked up about change, because I think that's the thing, because I think so many of us, certainly in our Twitter world, I mean, you know, there's a whole big other world out there that is probably saying completely other things, but certainly the people that I know and talk to and so on, and that's, you know, part of the Twitter bubble. But, you know, I think there's, you know, that what happens next, it's these BAME castings, you know, I think it was Alexander said about BAME, you know, we need to say, well, you know, white is not necessarily the default. You know, that's a big thing, isn't it? White is not the default. That's our casting kind of basis at the moment, is white is the default, and then we distinguish others. But no, you know, castings are just general, and if there's a specific reason, then we specify race. And that has to be a start. And then there was somebody else, who was it, said about, oh, it was a beautiful comment. It was, you know, we've always talked about life imitating art. Who was it who said that? And then it wasn't you, Trevor. Who was it?
No, Reese.
Reese.
Yeah.
Reese. Yeah. And then it was about, well, no, art, you know, art can influence life, you know, because if we kind of show stuff in art, and then more people see it, and we've got this digital world, and we can disseminate it, and that's something we can do. And in castings, and then there was somebody else that said, no, I don't want to. No, it was you. Who are you? You. What's your name? Mark. Is it Mark?
Hey.
On my screen. Yes, you. Hello. You said about no, I want to be recognised for the colour of my skin because it is who I am, and that's such a big thing. So there are going to be plays where we say, yes, we need you because of what you contribute. And that might be the colour of skin, or it might be your beautiful brown eyes, or it might be your beautiful dark voice. I mean, I don't know, whatever it is. So there will be things where you specifically contribute, and then there also need to be castings where it's just that, you know, this is a reflection on life, and it's anybody that can say this particular thing. It doesn't matter what colour.
Sorry, Meryl, can I ask a question? Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Here's just a quick question. Every time I hear like a lot of my white friends and white people I work with, colleagues, saying we and we and we, who are you talking about in the we? Because it's like I said in my comments, this isn't new to the Black community. We've been having these conversations for a long time. So when people are going, we need to do this, it's who's the we? Who's the we? Because
I think that thank you. That is yes, and thank you for that question because that brought me up short. Yes, absolutely. I think in this context, I was talking about we as an acting community. I think I got quite passionate, so I can't quite remember. But I think that I think my white voice, that you know, communication is key, and the more we understand and the more we talk, then the we becomes you and me. And you know, at the moment, what we've got is a lot of white people saying me, and this is what I think, and we've got, you know, a lot of the Black community that are angry and saying fuckingness and all of that, and then the white people are coming in and saying, yeah, we hear you, we support you. And so there is, you know, there has been a sort of separation, but I think we is going to be people who actually support the you know, the, you know, what is going on. That's the we.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, it is interesting, like, in a way, I feel what you're saying, but it's interesting to hear people saying the Black community is saying this and the Black community is saying that, because this movement that's happening now is not something that's been organized. These meetings and forums that we're in now is a way I see a lot of Black faces and white faces, and everyone trying to figure out what is the joint message we actually want, and how do we want that change to come about. And part of the problem that I feel is there's, even in all the conversations we've had tonight, it sounds really nice and airy-fairy, but what's the practical solution? How do you make sure that when people walk into that casting room, they don't feel uncomfortable, they don't look at a script and they know straight away this is not written for me? How do they know that those dialogues aren't there? And the only way I can see it is if there are a portion of more representatives at the top. But how do you think I
agree absolutely, 100%.
Do you think the people who own the power, and this goes to the Me Too campaign as well, because I've had this debate quite a few times, do you think that the people who hold the power are willing and ready to relinquish the controls that they have over the industry to allow that change to happen?
That's what we need to keep pushing for. We need to keep pushing for. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, that's not just,
and you articulated it really well.
I'm going to mute myself and hear what you have to say.
But yeah, I agree. And yes, we throw out these we's without knowing what it is. Yeah.
May I interrupt to just go back to Trevor's question, which I think is a really interesting one. Hello, everybody. By the way, hello. Nice, really nice to hear from everybody this evening. So, Trevor, you were asking what, you know, well, several of you are asking, what is it about this, you know, about the here and now? Why are we only just listening now and deciding to take action? And I asked myself the exact same question and spoke to a few people about this week. And one of my friends came back to me and said, you know, I think there's something that's really, really shocking about being able to see what happens on screen for 8 minutes. And that is new mainly to people in the white community, you know, and we hear about all these horrific stories that have happened already. We hear about the atrocities, but I think there's something about seeing it for such a sustained period of time that, like, I think shocks people. And the thing that reminded me of was the ongoing refugee crisis. We heard about all these people, you know, dying, coming over here, and then only people decided to take note and listen when a picture of a 3-year-old boy washed up on the shores. And suddenly everyone was going, oh my goodness, isn't this absolutely horrendous? Well, yeah, it is, but so were all the other hundreds and thousands of deaths. But I think there's something that's, you know, I'm only speaking from my own experience and the conversations I've had. I'm not speaking on behalf of everyone at all. And it's really important to not do that, to just say, oh, well, I'm speaking on behalf of everyone. Of course not. But I think there's something about, as you said, Trevor, living in the digital age and seeing these things in front of your own eyes. If you've never actually experienced that, you know, lots, like myself included, I haven't seen anything like that in front of my eyes in real life.
Yeah.
And I've read stories and heard stories, but I hadn't seen anything that visceral. Yeah, but I think, well, that's my point. Sorry, I probably rambled a bit there.
Could I just make a point, please?
Yeah, but I think there's something connected to that. Absolutely, I think it's something about watching it, seeing that for 8 minutes. You know, it doesn't make any of the previous murders and deaths any less atrocious. But they, you know, if you just hear about that or you read about it in a paper, it doesn't quite have the same effect, I think, than being able to watch that in an awful video. So I think there's something there which isn't good enough. You know, that's not good enough. It shouldn't take that. It shouldn't take being able to see it to make us step up. You know, that should have happened already. But yeah, I think it's the shock. That was just my thought on it. I thought it was a really interesting question, Trevor.
I need to leave, so just going to say my goodbyes now.
No, okay, Mark. Yeah, thank you very much for coming on. That's great.
Yeah.
Bye. 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 Yeah, I'm going to wrap this in a couple of minutes, guys, but I'm going to pass back to Sean to kind of see if he wants to sum up, and let's just see what he feels about all of this. And, you know, first of all, from me, a big thank you to you, Sean, for coming to me and asking if you wanted to platform this. And it's just
thank you for letting us using your platform.
No, absolutely. You know, it's vitally important. And you know, I for one am learning, and I may have well said one or two things that hopefully were not too ignorant on my part. But you know, it's all about trying to educate and to be aware, I think, from everybody's point of view, and to show respect and so on and so forth, says he from Hull, you know. So I'll pass on to you, back to you, Sean. And then what I want to do before everybody goes is, I always do this with all the Zoom events that I hold. I'm just going to take a little picture so I know that you've all been on. And the next event will actually go up, which is on Wednesday with a casting director, Pearson Casting. I'll be on Wednesday, but you'll see that in a few minutes when this one has ended. So just over to you then, Sean.
John.
Thank you, John. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry for the interjection. Please forgive me. I simply wanted to add very quick 10 seconds that one of the things that I think that we should all, you know, work towards a change is we ourselves need to write stuff which casts all of us, instead of waiting for an opportunity to arise.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. That is absolutely brilliant. I'm not a very good writer, but I think, you know, circumstances and situations do make us, you know, can stimulate the old brain cells, can't they?
That's true. They did actually say, I went to an equity meeting at the Spotlight, and they did say create your own work. And I produced a short film a couple of years ago. Obviously, it does cost to produce your own work, but I'm writing another one at the moment, and I'm thinking the world is your oyster. You can write about what you want. And I think I was also reading that people like to back a winner, and if obviously you try and produce some of your own stuff, then further down the line you'll get other people willing to back you up as well. So I think it is about also getting off off of the chair or whatever, and trying to write and produce. And if you throw your lines out there, there's shooting people on Facebook. There's a number. There's who is it? Different companies and people that are willing to back you if you're prepared to do your own work as well.
Absolutely. Do you know what would be a good idea as well? Even if like for the likes of me that not brilliant with writing, but I'd love to do something. What would be wrong with people collaborating to work on stuff together?
That's exactly what I was going to suggest.
You know what I mean? Like I could say, Sean, let's have a meeting or something and work on something, or do you know what I mean? Or me and Meryl or whatever. It doesn't matter, but kind of putting ideas together makes sense.
Yeah, I am interesting. Can I just say I am actually interested in writing. I am. Interestingly enough, I wasn't going to say this at the start, writing something which I actually started a year ago. But it slightly lost focus. But everything that happened with George Floyd and other has focused my thoughts, and well, I think it's a brilliant play. It's a 300, and I'm sorry, John, but there's no part for you.
Sorry about
that. But,
racist, Mel, racist.
But, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, and actually, an interesting question, because it is about kind of communication and what happens when two people are sort of kind of thrust together and something happens that kind of tears their world apart. It is about that, and it is a white woman and a black woman, probably Afro-Caribbean, I'm not quite sure, and a man, and what I can't decide is who is the man.
A Welshman.
And that's a big thing, because we're talking about, do we do neutral? No, you can't be black, because then that makes it too balanced that way. Do you see the dilemma?
Yeah.
Do you see the dilemma on a serious point? We have to have something other. So maybe he needs to be out of space.
Maybe he needs to be a Muslim.
Or maybe he needs to be a Muslim.
Maybe just do multimedia, I don't know.
Maybe he does. So So anyway, I am, but it's probably a theatre play, and when the theatres are going to open, sorry, I said that word. God only knows. So yeah.
Can I say two things? First is an advert for my local theatre. The Birmingham Rep, because you're talking about writing, is actually doing a writing to get together over Zoom, which is going to be free. First session is tomorrow. So they want people to take a look at Collaborate, whether you've been on one of the writing courses at the Rep or not. Just look up at the Birmingham Rep if you're interested. They do have, through the Foundry system, some really great writing. Tend to see it are doing that, and
Great. Thank you very much, Kerry. That's brilliant. Right, Sean.
You'll recall from from last time I was in one of these that I mentioned about the documentary that I was doing on COVID-19 survivor stories. So if anyone has been affected that we know of, far and wide, I'm covering that. So please reach out.
Thank you. Yeah, and once again, if you put that on, when I see, without kind of spamming Twitter too much, please, retweet it, quote tweet it, and I'll make sure it's there, and I'll make sure it gets out there for you on the page. And whilst we're on, I'm going to do a bit of something here, which is slightly off script, if that makes sense. Don't forget, we've got the wonderful Kate Davis Speak, who runs the Showreel Share Day. She's a very, very supportive person, a brilliant ambassador for everybody in the industry. I'm not going to ask her when she's doing the next one, because I don't know whether she knows she has an additional family member to look after. But always look out for Kate's tweets and anything you see that Kate is putting out there, because it's all good.
Thanks for that.
No, seriously, it's fantastic. So right,
I only do it once a year. You help people day in, day out, all year round. So thank you for that.
No, I try my best anyway. So Sean, I must come back to you. Sorry, you're on the one and we will come along. So what have you got? Have you got anything you'd like to say before we?
Yeah, just quickly before we all head off in our separate ways. I just wanted to say it starts with just a conversation. That's all it takes. It starts with a conversation. And we shouldn't feel scared or shy or feel any way but to start off a conversation, that's all it starts off, that's all it takes. Just a conversation for us to come to common terms and common understanding and get to know each other. That's all it starts with, just a conversation. So we shouldn't hold back sometimes.
Yeah, communication between people.
Of course. That is very important that we communicate and we keep these sort of discussions going and inspiring other people as well to keep on doing that too.
Yeah.
So it's very important.
Brilliant. Okay, well, look, guys, thank you for all coming on, and I think hopefully we'll all take something away with us from this, and we're learning as we go, and we're all in the same business together, but we are learning. It's about being, I would say, awareness of everybody, and this educating ourselves, and like Kate said a little bit earlier, what was it you said, Kate? I can't remember what you said something about.
Just mainly that we kind of need to start small and sort of sometimes raise awkward conversations with our loved ones, really. And, we've got maybe an older generation who's a little bit harder to rejig their mindset. But certainly as a new mother, I definitely want a huge, I want to make sure to educate my son and make sure he knows the way of the world and how people should be treated. So we start small. No, but thank you. Thanks so much for this. I really appreciate
it's lovely to see a lot of you on the Twitter account, and it's not the be all and end all, but like I always say to everybody, pass on if anybody needs to speak, I'm no ambassador in that. I can listen and give my personal opinion for what it's worth, and don't just keep silent about things or speak about them. Don't keep silent. Please try not to, because I know it must be very difficult, and nobody can turn around. I can't say to you, Sean. I can't say to you, Trevor. I can't say to you, Alexander. Anybody. I understand the situation fully, because I don't, and I don't think any of us do. But and I know possibly, Trevor, I was slightly wrong, not digging a hole here, in saying, if I saw a cast of people, what would you see? I was wrong in saying that, and I am wrong. I've learned from that. I'm seeing a group of actors that are in the room, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you've got to remember now. Like, I don't know if you mentioned it before. Somebody mentioned about we don't know now because our society is so multicultural. Okay, so we don't know. You don't know if someone's gay, if someone's straight, if someone's, gender fluid, someone's married to someone from a different culture. We don't know. And it's just about, people can say whatever I say. People can say whatever they want to say within a private forum. That may be within your household. And there might be banter. But when you go out into the public arena, when you go into the public forum and you're mixing with people, we have to sort of like then think, gone are the days. Remember, Kerry and I, being the oldest, we grew up in them 70s, 80s times where racism, people could say the N-word, comedians were on TV saying this, blah, 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 blah. I'll give you an example once quickly before we leave, okay? Yeah. So, I've gone to the derby, Man City versus Man United, and I played football at a good level. At that time, in my coaching, I played semi-pro like Alexander, and I played for Bernard Manning's son club, right?
Oh, right.
Right? So Bernard Manning's son, we were known for a while, never said anything racist. We had, black players, white players playing together. We go to the derby as guests of the club, and we're all sat down there, players eating a meal. And Bernard comes in, and remember, he's seen me play. He'd seen me a few times, and Bernard comes in. This was about 81 or something like that, 82. Bernard comes in and he says, "All right, Trevor, how you doing, son?" I'm like, "All right, Bernard." He said, "Yeah." He goes, "What you eating there?" I said, "Steak." He said, "It's fucking better than eating one of us, isn't it?" Now, right, you go, the man's 82. I'm like, oh, Bernard, young Bernard, was horrified. Do you know what I mean, Mark? See, Mark, that's what I did, Mark. I went, what? Young Bernard was horrified. He said, Dad. He went, oh, he knows I'm only fucking joking. That is the type of things that people say, just, oh, it's a laugh. Fucking better than eating one of us. Now, in today's world, no, it ain't happening. It ain't happening. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, again, like I said, about being aware. I don't know, you know, if any of the women here are gay, but I wouldn't make any reference or a joke about someone, about Merle, say, for example. I'm just using as an example, mate. Merle, if Merle had a female partner, I wouldn't know that. But what gives me the right then to assume that she's straight? So I can say something derogatory against someone who's gay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when you walk into a group and you go, like, all right. You know, the media's rhetoric, how it reports people, is a joke. It's a joke. I put things on Twitter today, you know what I mean, which Denzel Washington has put something in, it's fantastic. And basically it says, a black man, and he's crossed out the word black, a man, okay, was shot by a white policeman. So straight away you're defining cultures. So why can't you just say, a man is shot by a cop?
Exactly.
That's the media.
Thank you.
The media.
Yeah.
Thank you for everybody. I'm sorry sometimes I patronize the conversation.
Likewise.
No, not at all. No. It's great. But thank you so much, everybody. And this would not have happened if it hadn't been for Sean coming to me. I know.
Likewise. Thank you too, John.
No, I mean.
Oh, we used to have the same agency, Sean, as well.
Oh, we do. Do we?
No, we used to.
Oh, we used to. Okay.
All right then, guys. Well, thank you. Please tweet about this if you want to put something up. That would be great. I'll be posting this up, and for anybody that wants to watch it again, or you know anybody that wanted to come on but couldn't, the recording will go out tomorrow for people that want to sit and listen to this and watch. Okay.
Nice to meet everyone. Take care.
Okay.
Likewise, you too.
Now, take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.